Okay, a short little lesson today on chord stamps. If you are new to reading chords, then I'm going to walk you through this really quickly. If you've read chords before, then you probably don't need this lesson, but let's talk about it for those of you that do need it. These things here are chord stamps, okay? And they represent the lower part of your guitar, whereas this is the nut of the guitar. Here would be the headstock and your tuners, but right here is the nut, and this would be frets 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Notice that this string here is thicker and wound, and this one is thinner. Okay, so just like your guitar, just like turning it over and looking at it. Notice the fret markers right here. So just like your guitar probably has the third fret marked like that. And so that kind of lets you know where you're at on the fretboard, okay? How it's represented. And what these dots mean are where you're going to place a finger, okay? On the chord stamps that I do, unless I don't want you to play a string, you'll just play it, okay? Unless I don't want you to, you just play all the strings. If I don't want you to play a string, I'll put an X over that string, and that means don't play. Now you notice on this, there are, let's see, we've got a few, I'm changing pages here. Okay, so at the top here we have one that's in parentheses, an X that's in parentheses, and another one that is not in parentheses. What that means is the one that's not in parentheses, I definitely don't want you to play because it's technically not in the chord. So for practicing sake, do not play any X that's not in a parenthesis. Okay. When an X is in a parenthesis, that means you typically don't play it, but technically the name of that note would be represented in the chord, and it's not going to sound bad. It's just going to make the chord sound a little bit different, maybe a little bass heavy, or make it sound a little less like the chord that we're going for. Okay, so to summarize, anything with an X only, don't play that string. If it is X in parentheses, try not to play it. If you do, it won't be the worst sound in the world. Okay, when you see a note with red around it, you should denote that as being the letter name of the chord. It'd be the root. It's where the root is located. So for instance, for all these D chords, the fourth string, which is a D, is going to be red because that's the letter name of the chord, and that's where we're getting the rest of the chord from. Or I should say, that's the note that we're basing the rest of the chord from. Okay? If we go here to some of these C chords, you'll notice that on the fifth string, the A string, if we go A sharp, B, C, this is a C, and so that is a C chord, and we want to denote that the C is in the bass. Okay? Now, or not in the bass, but in the root, I should say. For this particular chord, since it's a slash chord, we're actually playing the E in the bass, as we learned, or as we will learn, in our inversion section. Okay, so don't worry about that right now, but basically what this is saying is it's a C chord, but play the E in the bass. Okay, if you're unclear about that, that's okay. I just want you to understand how to read chord stamps right now. We'll get into inversions a bit later. Okay, and then the last thing I want you to note are the numbers inside of these circles. Okay, when you see a 0 inside of the circle, that means you just play that note open, or the 0 fret. Okay, so this note from the D7 here would be just played open. Of course, you wouldn't need a finger to play that because it's just the open string. Okay, whereas in this C/G chord, you've got a third, your ring finger right here at the third fret of the low E string. The fourth finger is just below that on the next string, and the 2 would be here and the 1 would be here. So you can break these rules later on, but for right now, learn them the way that I'm showing you, and it's really going to help and make things a lot easier as you're learning more chords. Later on, there'll be some reasons to break those rules, but right now, stick to that protocol. Okay, go practice your chords with these new chord stamps.